Hello everyone, today we are going to learn Chapter 2 Understanding the Weather Part 1 from your Social Science textbook. In this video, I'll be covering each and every line from the chapter so you don't miss anything important. Make sure to keep your notebook and pen ready and take notes while watching. This will help you remember the concepts better. You can pause or rewind any time to write things down. So, let's begin. Understanding the weather. Weather means the day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place. Weather is the condition of the atmosphere at a particular place and time. Weather includes things like temperature, rainfall, wind, and humidity. Understanding the weather means learning what weather is, its main elements, and how it is measured and how it changes. In short, this chapter teaches how to observe, measure, and explain daily weather changes. A change in the weather is sufficient to create the world and oneself anew. Marcel Proust, French novelist. Marcel Proust was a famous French writer. He is best known for his novel In Search of Lost Time. His works often explore memory, emotions, and human experiences. He believed that small changes in life can deeply affect our thoughts and feelings. Here, Proust is saying that even a simple change in weather can make everything feel fresh and new. It can change not only how the world looks, but also how we feel inside. Like when it suddenly starts raining or when the sun comes out after many cloudy days, how you feel. Weather doesn't just change the sky, it changes you. A rainy day might make you feel calm or sleepy. A bright sunny day can make you feel happy and energetic. Because of this, the whole world around you starts to feel fresh and new. And here, that's exactly what Proust is talking about. Weather has the power to change both the world around us and the way we feel inside. In this picture, we see a desert. It is very hot and dry. This shows hot desert weather. In the second picture, we see snow-covered mountains. The temperature here is very low and everything is covered with snow. This shows very cold weather. In the third picture, the sky is full of dark clouds. When we see such clouds, it usually means it may rain. This shows cloudy or rainy weather. In the fourth picture, we see a beautiful flower garden in the mountains. The weather here is neither too hot nor too cold. It is cool and pleasant. This shows pleasant weather. So all these pictures show different types of weather conditions. Weather changes from place to place and time to time. The big questions are, how can we measure and monitor the weather around us? And how do weather predictions help us prepare for events like heavy rain, storms, drought, and heat waves? So, we will learn answer for these questions in this chapter. Weather and its elements. You wake up one winter morning and shiver. You reach for thick clothes to keep yourself warm. In the summer, you choose clothes that keep you cool and comfortable. You are responding to your body's signals. Your body is sensing the weather. So, you don't check the weather first. Your body tells you. When you wake up on a winter day, the air feels cold and your body starts shivering. Without thinking much, you grab a sweater or blanket. But on a summer morning, you feel warm and maybe even sweaty. This time, you choose light clothes to stay cool. So what's happening here? Your body is like a natural sensor. It immediately understands the weather around you and sends signals. I am cold or I am hot. And based on these signals, you take action. That's what we call responding to weather. What is weather? Weather is a state of the Earth's atmosphere at a particular time and place. But what is an atmosphere? In simple terms, it is a layer of gases that surround some planets. In the case of our Earth, we call these gases air. The Earth's atmosphere may be compared to a cake with several layers. So, look outside right now. Is it sunny, cloudy, or windy? The exact condition of the air around you at this moment is called weather. Weather is simply what the atmosphere is doing right now. If it's raining in your area at this moment, that's your weather. If it's hot and sunny, that's also weather. But what is this atmosphere? The atmosphere is the layer of gases that surrounds the earth. In simple words, it is the air around us. Just like a cake has many layers, the atmosphere also has different layers stacked one above the other. Each layer has different characteristics. Some layers have clouds and weather changes, while others are very thin and cold. All the weather changes that we feel like rain, wind, heat and cold happen in the lower layer of the atmosphere. So we can say that the atmosphere protects the earth and also controls our weather. The layer closest to the surface of the earth is called the troposphere, and that is where all land-based plants and animals including humans live and breathe. It is also where almost all weather phenomena which we will explore in this chapter take place. The troposphere extends to a height of 6 to 18 kilometers from the ground. It is less thick at the poles where the cold air contracts and thicker in the tropical zone where the warmer air expands. You will study more about the other layers in your science classes. So now let us understand the layers of the atmosphere. The layer closest to the earth is called the troposphere. This is the layer where we live, breathe and see all weather changes like rain, wind and clouds. The troposphere extends up to about 6 to 18 kilometers above the earth. It is thinner near the poles and thicker near the equator. Above the troposphere, there is a boundary called the tropopause. Next comes the stratosphere. In this layer, we also find the ozone layer which protects us from harmful rays of the sun. In this picture, you can see airplanes flying and parachutes working in the lower layers, mainly in the troposphere. Now, think of the atmosphere like a cake. Just like a cake has different layers, one above the other, the atmosphere also has different layers. The troposphere is the bottom layer of the cake where all life and weather exist. Above it are other layers like the stratosphere. So remember, all the weather we experience happens only in the lowest layer, the troposphere. You will learn more about the other layers of the atmosphere like the stratosphere and ozone layer in your science classes. There you will study each layer in detail and understand their functions more clearly. We use many words to describe the weather: hot, cold, rainy, cloudy, humid, snowy, windy and so on. They describe the different ways in which we experience the elements of weather. So, weather is not just something we study, it's something we experience every day. When the sun is strong, you say it's hot. When it rains, we say it's rainy. When there is a lot of moisture in the air, you feel humid. When air moves fast, you feel windy. So these words are not random, they are actually describing different parts, that is, elements of weather. So these words help us understand and express what the atmosphere is doing around us. Let's explore what are some of the words in your local language that you use to describe the weather. Hot, cold, warm, chilly, crisp, pleasant and so on are commonly used terms in English. So here you need to think about the words you use in your local language to describe the weather. For example, just like in English we say hot, cold or rainy, you also use similar words in your local language. So think about it and write the weather words in your language. The elements of weather are temperature, how hot or cold the atmosphere is. So now let's look at the elements of weather. The first one is temperature. Temperature simply tells us how hot or cold the air around us. For example, on a sunny afternoon, we feel very hot. That means the temperature is high. On a rainy day, we may feel cool or cold. That means the temperature is low. So in simple words, temperature helps us understand how hot or cold the weather is. Precipitation, any form of water such as rain, snow, sleet or hail that falls from the sky. Sleet frozen or partly frozen rain. So normally rain falls as liquid water. But in cold temperatures, when rain starts falling from clouds, as it passes to very cold air, it begins to freeze. By the time it reaches the ground, it turns into tiny ice pellets. So sleet is rain that freezes into small ice pellets before reaching the ground. Hail, small hard balls of ice that fall from the sky like rain. So sometimes something different happens. Strong winds carry water droplets high up into very cold parts of the atmosphere. There the water freezes into solid ice and grows layer by layer. When these ice balls become too heavy, they fall to the ground. That's hail. So hail is small hard balls of ice that fall from the sky. We usually think of rain when we talk about water falling from the sky. But actually there are different forms. Sometimes it falls as liquid water, that is rain. Sometimes it falls as snow in very cold regions. And sometimes it falls as tiny ice pellets, that is sleet. And sometimes it falls as hard ice balls, that is hail. All these are called precipitation. So precipitation means any form of water that falls from the sky. Atmospheric pressure. The weight of the air above us felt on the Earth's surface. So we usually think air is light and has no weight, but actually air has weight. The air above us presses down on the earth all the time. We don't feel it because it is acting on us equally from all sides. This pressure is caused by the weight of the air above us. This is called atmospheric pressure. So remember, atmospheric pressure is the weight of air pressing on the earth's surface. Next element is wind, the movement of air including its speed and direction. We cannot see air, but we can feel it when it moves. When air starts moving, we feel it as wind. Sometimes it is gentle and cool like a breeze. Sometimes it is strong and fast like during a storm. Wind also has speed and direction. It can blow slowly or fast and from different directions. This movement of air is called wind. So, wind is the movement of air from one place to another. Humidity, the amount of water vapor in the air. Water vapor. Water vapor is water in gaseous instead of liquid form. So, when water gets heated, it changes into invisible gas. This form of water is called water vapor. So, we cannot see water vapor in the air, but we can feel its effect. When there is a lot of water vapor in the air, we feel sticky and sweaty. When there is less water vapor, the air feels dry and comfortable. This amount of water vapor in the air is called humidity. So, humidity tells us how much moisture is present in the air. So, weather is made up of 5 main elements: temperature, precipitation, pressure, wind and humidity. Temperature decides if the day feels hot or cold. Humidity decides if the air feels sticky or dry. Wind makes the air move, sometimes gently, sometimes strongly. Pressure controls changes like storms or clear skies. Precipitation brings rain, snow or hail. All these elements work together to create the weather you experience every day. Think about it. Let us imagine that Krishnan from Chennai is speaking with Amir in Kashmir. Krishnan tells Amir that it has become chilly in Chennai after it rained the previous night. Amir asks him how cold it is. How will Krishnan explain to Amir how cold it is? After all, what is cold for Krishnan may be quite pleasant for Amir. So, you need to imagine the situation. That is, Krishnan from Chennai says it is chilly after rain. But Amir in Kashmir may not feel it very cold because he is used to much colder weather. So, how can Krishnan explain how cold it really is? He cannot just say it is cold because people feel temperature differently. Instead, he should tell the exact temperature like it is 20 degrees Celsius. This way, Amir can clearly understand how cold it is. So, we use temperature measurements to describe weather accurately, not just words like hot or cold. As you can see, it would be difficult for President to convey his sense of chilliness to Amir unless there is a commonly agreed way to measure the temperature. It is the same with other elements of the weather. In this chapter, we will learn how we measure the weather using common standards. So, as we just saw, words like cold or chilly can mean different things to different people. What feels cold for Krishnan may feel normal or even pleasant for Ramir. So, just using feelings or words is not enough to explain weather clearly. That is why we need a common way to measure things like temperature, rainfall, wind, and pressure. When we use proper measurements, everyone can understand the weather in the same way. So, in this chapter, we will learn how scientists measure different elements of weather using standard methods. Let's explore. What do you think could be some other reasons to measure the weather more precisely? Hint, think how knowing the weather a few hours or a few days in advance would help you plan some activities. So, measuring weather precisely helps us plan our daily activities better. If we know it might rain, we can carry an umbrella or postpone outdoor plans. If it's going to be very hot, we can stay hydrated and avoid going out in the afternoon. Farmers can decide when to sow crops based on rainfall. Fishermen and pilots can stay safe by knowing about storms or strong winds in advance. Even for school events, picnics, or travel, knowing the weather helps us plan properly. So, accurate weather measurement helps us stay safe, prepared, and organized. From early times, humans have closely observed nature and learned to read her signals to forecast the weather. Observing birds flying low, ants carrying eggs, squirrels gathering nuts, frogs croaking loudly, or even the opening and closing of pine cones provided valuable information about coming rain or storms. This knowledge has been passed down from generation to generation. Even today, in many parts of India, people use traditional ways to predict the weather, especially the arrival of the monsoon. Forecast, to predict or find out in advance, in our case, the weather. So, a forecast is like getting a hint about the future. It's predicting something in advance. But how can we know in advance? Scientists, that is meteorologists, study weather patterns and data to make predictions. They tell us what the weather might be in the next few hours or days. This prediction is called a forecast. So, when we hear a weather forecast, it means we are being told about the weather before it actually happens. Before modern science and technology, people depended on careful observation of nature. They'd notice patterns like when birds fly low, it may mean rain is coming. When ants carry eggs to higher places, it may signal heavy rain or flooding. When frogs start croaking loudly, it often means rainy season is near. These were not random guesses. They were based on years of experience and observation. Over time, this knowledge was shared from elders to younger generation. Even today, especially in villages, farmers still use these signs to predict the arrival of monsoon rains, which are very important for agriculture. So, people have long used natural science to forecast weather, and this traditional knowledge is still useful today. Observing nature's clues. First one, figure 2.3.1. Ants shifting their eggs to higher ground is a natural behavior that indicates an expected change in the weather, especially heavy rain. So, before heavy rain, ants start moving their eggs and larvae. They take them to higher places to protect them from water. Ants can sense changes in moisture in the air and atmospheric pressure. These changes tell them that rain or flooding is about to happen. So, when you see ants shifting their eggs, it's a signal that rain is coming. Figure 2.3.2, a frog croaking in a forest of the Western Ghats in expectation of rain. Frogs are closely connected to water and moisture. Before rainfall, the air becomes more humid. Frogs sense this change and become active. So, What do? They start croaking loudly, especially during the monsoon season. This croaking is actually a response to favorable conditions, that is moist air, and a sign that rain is about to arrive. In regions like the Western Ghats, people have observed this for generations and use it as a natural weather signal. Figure 2.3.3. The opening and closing of pine cones are natural mechanisms driven by environmental humidity. Pine cones close in humid conditions to protect their seeds and open in dry conditions to release them, ensuring they spread in favorable weather. So, when the air becomes moist or humid, often before rain, the pine cone closes tightly. This protects its seed from getting damaged. And the weather becomes dry, the pine cone opens up. This allows seeds to spread easily in the wind. So, what does this tell us? If you see pine cones closing, it may mean rain or humid weather is coming. If they are open, the weather is likely dry and clear. This is nature's way of ensuring seeds grow in the best conditions. So remember, pine cones open and close based on humidity, helping them protect and spread seeds while also indicating weather changes. Let's explore. Talk to elders in your neighborhood and ask them how they predict the weather. What signs do they observe? Document any sayings in your regional language that refer to weather prediction. So now you need to talk to elders like grandparents or neighbors and find out how they predict weather without any instruments. Note the signs they observe like animals, sky, wind, etc. and write any local sayings or proverbs related to weather. In the last few centuries, scientists have worked out methods to measure and monitor the elements of the weather with great precision. Based on those inputs, meteorologists try to predict how the weather will behave in a particular region after a few hours or a few days or even a few weeks. How do they do it? Do they just look up at the sky and guess? No. They have got some cool gadgets, a few of which we will now look at. Meteorology. Meteorology is the systematic study of weather and its evolution. This study is the basis for weather forecasting. So, meteorology is the science that helps us understand and predict weather. Scientists called meteorologists study temperature, wind, humidity, air pressure, and they collect this data using weather stations, satellites, and computers. Then they analyze it to understand how weather is changing and predict what will happen next. So, whenever you see a weather report, it is actually based on meteorology. So, in earlier times, people mostly guessed the weather by observing nature. But over the last few centuries, scientists have developed accurate methods to measure different elements of weather like temperature, rainfall, wind, and pressure. They collect this data using special instruments. And based on this information, meteorologists try to predict how the weather will change in the next few hours, days, or even weeks. And they do this by using scientific tools and instruments to study weather very carefully. So, weather forecasting today is based on proper measurements and technology, not just guessing. Now, let us look at some of these instruments. Weather instruments. Temperature. Let's remember, in your grade 6 science textbook Curiosity, you read about different types of thermometers used for measuring the temperature, the clinical thermometer and the laboratory thermometer. You also learned about temperature scales. One of them is the Celsius scale, another is the Fahrenheit scale. If, for instance, we have a cool temperature of 15 degrees Celsius, noted as 15 degrees Celsius, it is the same as 59 degrees Fahrenheit, noted as 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you already learnt in science that temperature can be measured using thermometers. A clinical thermometer is used by doctors to check body temperature, and a laboratory thermometer is used in experiments. And you also learned that temperature can be measured using different scales. The two common scales are Celsius scale and Fahrenheit scale. These are just two different ways of measuring the same temperature. For example, a temperature of 15 degrees Celsius in the Celsius scale is equal to 59 degree Fahrenheit in the Fahrenheit scale. So even though the numbers look different, they actually represent the same level of temperature. In India, we mostly use Celsius scale, but in some countries, people use Fahrenheit scale. So the thermometers measure temperature, but it can be expressed either in Celsius or Fahrenheit scales. Figure 2.4.1. Snow melts quickly when it's warm. So why does snow disappear when the weather becomes warm? Let's connect this to temperature. Snow forms when water freezes at very low temperatures. But when the temperature rises, the ice begins to lose its solid form. It changes into liquid water. That's why on a warm day, snow melts quickly. And on a cold day, snow stays frozen. This simple example shows how important temperature is in weather. Even a small change in temperature can change the state of water. Figure 2.4.2, cloudy weather, it's getting cold. So, on a bright sunny day, sunlight directly reaches the earth and warms it. But when clouds cover the sky, they act like a shield. They block or reduce sunlight. As a result, the ground gets less heat and the air becomes cooler. That's why cloudy weather often makes you feel cold or chilly. Figure 2.4.3, in winter, coconut oil turns solid. Coconut oil behaves differently depending on temperature. In summer or warm weather, it stays liquid. In winter or cold weather, it turns solid like butter. This is a simple real-life example of how temperature affects matter. Figure 2.4.4, curd takes longer to set in cold weather. Curd sets quickly in summer but takes longer in winter. That's because of temperature. Curd is made when bacteria act on milk. These bacteria need warm conditions to work properly. So what happens? In summer or warm weather, bacteria are active and curd forms quickly. In winter or cold weather, bacteria become slow. Curd takes more time to set. That's why people often keep milk in a warm place like near the kitchen or wrapped in cloth. Curd takes longer to set in cold weather because low temperature slows down the process. There are several types of thermometers. Some simply measure the ambient temperature, others record the maximum and minimum temperatures during a day. Thermometers often use a colored liquid which expands when the temperature increases. However, more and more digital thermometers are preferred as they are more precise and can record more data. Ambient of the immediate surroundings. So ambient means the surroundings around us. It refers to the immediate environment we are in. For example, ambient temperature means the temperature of the air around us. So in simple words, ambient means the surroundings nearby. So there are different types of thermometers used to measure temperature. Some thermometers measure the ambient temperature, which means the temperature of the surrounding air, and some special thermometers can record the maximum and minimum temperatures of a day. Traditional thermometers use a colored liquid that expands when the temperature rises and contracts when it falls. Nowadays, digital thermometers are more commonly used because they are more accurate and can store more information. So, different thermometers help us measure temperature in different ways. Indeed, temperature recordings can be used to collect some useful statistics, including range of temperature or the maximum temperature minus the minimum temperature during a particular period of time, usually 24 hours. Statistics, the technique of gathering and analyzing information or data in order to be able to detect patterns, understand events, or make predictions. So, we often collect information to understand things better. When we gather data, study it, and find patterns, it is called statistics. It helps us understand what is happening and also predict what may happen next. For example, let's say you are studying more and trying to get better marks. In the first test, you scored 40 marks. In the second test, you scored 50 marks. Then 60, 70 and 80 marks in the next test. So, if you look at your marks, you can see that they are increasing. This shows that your hard work is helping you improve. So, you can also predict that you may score even higher in the next test. This is called statistics, collecting and analyzing data to understand patterns and make predictions. So when we record temperature regularly, we can use that data to find useful information. By collecting temperature readings over time, we can analyze them and understand patterns. For example, we can find the highest and lowest temperatures or the average temperature and how temperature changes during the day or across seasons. These are called statistics and they help us understand weather better. So, temperature recordings are not just numbers, they help us study and predict weather patterns. And when we record temperature, we usually note the highest and lowest values. The difference between the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature is called the range of temperature. For example, if the maximum temperature is 30 degrees Celsius and the minimum is 20 degrees Celsius, the range is 30 minus 20, that is 10 degrees Celsius. This is usually calculated for a period of 24 hours, that is one day. So, the range of temperature tells us how much the temperature changes during the day. Mean daily temperature or the maximum temperature plus the minimum temperature of the day divided by 2. So, another useful measure is the mean daily temperature. To find this, we take the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature of the day. Then we add them and divide by 2. For example, if the maximum temperature is 30 degrees Celsius and the minimum is 20 degrees Celsius, mean daily temperature is 30 plus 20 divided by 2. That is 25 degrees Celsius. This gives us an average idea of the temperature for that day. Don't miss out. The India Meteorological Department was set up in 1875. Its motto is Aditya Jayate Vrishti, which means from the sun arises rain. The phrase comes from the ancient text Manusmriti and the complete sentence reads, from the sun arises rain, from rain comes food, and from food living beings originate. So, the India Meteorological Department was established in 1875 to study and predict weather in India. Its motto is Aditya Jayate Vrishti, which means from the sun arises rain. This means that the sun plays a very important role in bringing rain. This idea comes from an ancient text called Manusmriti. So, how does the sun cause rain? The sun heats water in oceans, rivers and lakes, and this water evaporates and rises into the air, forming clouds. Later, this water falls back as rain. Rain helps plants grow. So, rain is very important for agriculture and all living beings depend on food to survive. So, rain indirectly supports all life on earth. So, from the sun arises rain, from rain comes food, and from food, living beings originate. This shows how everything in nature is connected. Sun, rain, food, and life. Can you think of a reason why rain arises from the sun? So, why does rain arise from the sun? It sounds strange, right? How can the sun, which gives heat, be responsible for rain? The sun is actually the starting point of the water cycle. Sun heats water, that is from oceans, rivers and lakes, and water changes into water vapor through evaporation. Water vapor rises up and it cools and forms clouds. When clouds become heavy, water falls back as rain. So even though the sun doesn't directly make rain, it provides the energy needed to start the whole process. So rain arises from the sun because the sun's heat drives the water cycle that leads to rainfall. Let's explore. Here is a chart of the temperatures of a city in Madhya Pradesh. What is the maximum temperature recorded in the week shown here? What is the minimum? Calculate the range. So, read the temperature chart carefully and find the highest temperature in the given week. This is called the maximum temperature. Here you can see that 32 degrees Celsius is the highest value. And then find the minimum temperature. Here 14 degrees Celsius is the lowest value. Finally, you have to calculate the range of temperature. Range of temperature is equal to maximum temperature minus minimum temperature. So, here 32 degree minus 14 degrees Celsius, which is equal to 18 degrees Celsius. So, the range of temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. Remember the conversation between Krishnan and Amir? If Krishnan said it was 20 degrees Celsius in Chennai and he was feeling a little cold, he and Amir would have a measure they could understand. What do you think Amir's reaction to Krishnan's statement might be? So, people in different places feel temperature differently. Krishnan feels cold at 20 degrees Celsius in Chennai, but Amir lives in Kashmir where temperatures are much lower. In Kashmir, where temperatures can go even below 0 degrees Celsius in winter, and in summer, they usually do not rise much. So, Amir may not feel that 20 degrees Celsius is cold. He might say that 20 degrees Celsius is actually pleasant or even warm for him. This shows that people's feelings about temperature can differ based on the place they live. So, Amir's reaction would likely be that 20 degrees Celsius is not cold but comfortable or warm. Next is precipitation. If the news says that a particular place received 30 millimeter of rainfall in a day, what does it mean? How is rainfall measured? So, you might have heard in the news that a place received 30 millimeter of rainfall. Now think, what does this 30 millimeter actually mean? And also, how do they even measure rainfall? Do they just guess by looking at the rain, or do they use some instrument? The amount of rainfall is measured with the help of an instrument called a rain gauge, figure 2.6. When it rains, the water falls into a funnel and is collected in a cylinder. A scale is attached to the cylinder to measure the depth of rainwater collected. For example, when the height of the water collected is 5 millimeter, we say that the area received 5 millimeter of rainfall. So, rainfall is measured using an instrument called a rain gauge. You can see in this picture, when it rains, water falls into this panel at the top of the rain gauge, and this water is collected in the cylinder below. The cylinder has a scale marked on it. By checking the height of the collected water, we can measure the rainfall. For example, if the water collected is 5 millimeters high, we say that the area received 5 millimeter of rainfall. So, rainfall is measured as the depth of water collected in the rain gauge. Let's explore. Make a rain gauge as shown in the diagram above. Place the rain gauge in an open area away from objects that might obstruct rain. Ensure that the rain gauge is on a flat surface and will not tilt or topple with the wind. Using the measuring scale, record the amount of rainwater collected at the same time every day for a month. If there is snow, allow it to melt before taking the measurement. Calculate the average rainfall for every week in that month and comment on the variation from week to week. So, in this activity, you need to make your own rain gauge. Rain gauge has 3 parts: collecting funnel, measuring tube and measuring scale. You can easily make it at home using a plastic bottle. Take a plastic bottle, cut the top part and turn it upside down like a funnel. Fix it on the bottle and mark a scale in millimeters on the side. Now, place your rain gauge in an open area, avoiding buildings or trees that block rain, and place it on a flat and stable surface. Make sure it does not tilt or fall. Then, record rainfall every day. Measure rainwater at the same time every day. Note the water level in millimeter. If snow falls, let it melt first and then you can measure. Then, you need to calculate the weekly average. Average rainfall is equal to total rainfall of the week divided by 7. So, let's say if the total rainfall in a week is 70 millimeter, average would be 70 divided by 7, that is 10 millimeter per day. After 1 month, compare each week. Observe which week had maximum rainfall and which week had minimum rainfall. Was rainfall steady or changing? By measuring daily rainfall and calculating weekly averages, we can understand weather patterns over time. So with this, we have completed the part 1 of the chapter, Understanding the Weather. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.